So today my talk is based on my book, The Zen Priestess and the Snake, which I cannot show now very much. A woman's path of transformation and healing through rediscovery of the great mother tradition. So I would like to start with this picture that I had a few years before I received Inca from Roshi Gyoku Nakao. And this was a dream that was like a revelation to me, because this goddess appears on the ground. It's like a Kuan Yin, but she's naked. But I see it's a Dharma goddess because of the water and the Dharma wheel. And I felt that she was coming, that she was announcing with all those conchs that she carries in her four arms, that she was coming. So it was a kind of proclamation that I am coming, she is coming. And it was great, a very great dream, except for one thing, that she is on the ground. So she was not quite there yet. We can remove that now, Sean. Thank you. In a recent role play that we had at our Great Mountain Zen Center, we asked our members if they could connect with the sacred feminine in themselves and talk from that place. And to my great surprise, I realized everybody said unanimously that the sacred feminine is socially unacceptable. They can accept it, but it's difficult to bring it out because they said, I didn't influence them at all. I was shocked that everybody agreed that she was socially unacceptable. And it's interesting because the sacred feminine represents our most tender, most vulnerable, most loving, most joyful, most authentic heart of each one of us. So if that is socially unacceptable, then we really have to work at this, at who we are and how we present ourselves. And there are two main things that propel me to give this talk today. And the first one is the empowerment that I received from Roshi Gyoku Nakao, Inca empowerment in the year 2005 at CCLA. And she wrote in my Raksu, please do not let die the wisdom seed of the mother of all the Buddhas. Truly, I implore you. And that's a big motivational force for me to put myself out there. I don't think that without that motivational force behind me, I probably would not have enough, I don't know, courage, strength to do it. But I have enough of that now. And the other thing that adds a lot of energy to that is what is happening to the planet. Like everybody knows what precarious situation the planet is today. And it's heartbreaking to know about the mass extinctions of animals, the burning of the forests, the acidity of the oceans, and on and on and on, and then the pandemic, and then the silence that the government has been putting on all of this for the last 4 years, but now I hope we can see some changes. So, but the important thing is that with all these things happening, it's almost impossible to avoid the pain to hearing about these things. It's quite impossible. This is quite impossible for me. I just have to feel the pain of all these catastrophes that are happening and all the suffering that is going on with all these animal extinctions and human beings, also in terrible conditions some places. So it is from that pain also that I gather the energy to come out there and to talk about this story. This is a story, it's a story, and it's also my journey. And it's also a tale, a fairy tale, my own fairy tale. So I write that it's due to the pain that many human beings feel about these issues that many of us are waking up in solidarity with our mother planet as the old shame of the shadow of patriarchy dies out. The development of our patriarchal civilization that is currently destroying the planet was based on the repression, persecution, and denial of the sacred feminine. So if we feel there's something shameful about it, it's because all that had been done to it that had made it shameful, but in itself, it cannot be shame. I want to read you a definition of patriarchy that I found recently that I think is really quite to the point. Patriarchy is a social political system that insists that males are inherently dominating, superior to everything and everyone deemed weak, especially females, and endowed with the right to dominate and rule over the weak and to maintain that dominance through various forms of psychological terrorism and violence. This is important, although it's very hard to hear that because of the contrast with the sacred feminine. The contrast that we will see later is so sharp. Before I go any further in my talk, I want to let you know that all the experiences that I wrote in the book, which I won't be able to tell you today, but the ones I have chosen to tell you today do not make me feel important or special or different. For the contrary, I can only feel humble, unspecial, and unimportant. What is important, I think, is the message. Definitely not me. The book is about the search through my life for the sacred feminine. In an attempt to understand the events that happened very early on in my life. I want you to have a taste of my writing in the book, so I will do this from here. In the neighbor's house, there lived a boy my own age who went to kindergarten with me. His name was Gilberto. We became friends and we used to play together after school. One day, while we were playing together in the backyard of his house, he said he had to pee. He pulled down his zipper and started to pee just to my side. He didn't bother to cover himself. He was peeing so close to me that I could clearly see his little peanuts. I had never seen that before. Coming from my house in the tropical forest with all the animals that I used to play with, I thought that he had taken a very small animal out of his zipper. In my innocent mind, I asked, "Can I touch it?" He said, "Yes." I quickly touched it with the tip of my index finger. I wasn't sure if the little creature would bite me or not. Then we continued playing. Then it seems that his brother saw us and went to tell my aunt, with whom I was staying at my grandparents' house. And my aunt was been devout Catholic all her life, very devout Catholic, and very spinster. She had taken me to church ever since I arrived to live at my grandparents' house. And what amazed me more in the church was the incredible frescoes they had at the entrance of the church. There was like a big entrance, big gallery, and these huge frescoes with men and women burning in hell with flames up, above their waists to their necks. I mean, and their faces of incredible torment and suffering. I would just stare at that and I wonder what have they done? What have they done? They would had chains anyway. That was very shocking for I was only 5.5 years old. So then Pedro tells Titi something that I don't know what it is, and Titi understands. We don't know what she understood, but she came, grabbed me by the arm, pushed me into a room, into our room. I lived with her and sleep with her in the same room, and told me that I had committed a mortal sin and therefore I was going to burn in hell. The very moment she said to me I was going to burn in hell, I wholeheartedly believed it. In my vivid imagination, I saw terrifying waves of fire wrapping all over me. I felt acute terror and my body shook with fear while I envisioned the flames of hell all around me. I couldn't stop crying and yelling in terror. I entered hell totally. If I thought that purgatory was bad, I imagined hell would be much worse. The flames would be a lot bigger and there wouldn't be the possibility for redemption. With my mind's eye, I saw myself being devoured thoroughly by the flames of hell. I was alone without any defense or protection. I didn't question Titi or blame her or defend myself in any way. I was told I was going to burn in hell and I did. My mind's visions were so real that I felt acute terror. I screamed in tears while sitting on my bed. I don't know how long this lasted, but no one came to console me at all. It wasn't dark when my aunt condemned me, so she must have left the room and came back when I was already asleep, exhausted from the panic, the yelling, and the crying of seeing myself burning in hell. I don't know how I woke up, but the next thing I remember is sitting up peacefully on my bed next to Titi's bed, where she lay asleep. From my bed, I saw in the center of the room, between our beds, the image of the most magnificent woman you can imagine. She was made of light, floating above the ground in some sort of white energy that resembled clouds, and the clouds were moving too. Nothing was static. Her attire was made of different shades of transparent light blue and white veils that moved as if there were wind in the room. Her face and hands were light golden. The most incredible thing was that this woman emanated from her entire body an incredible amount of love for me. I was bathed in love, in and out, and through me there was only love, clarity, and incredible beauty. I was wrapped completely in it. I don't know how long we stayed like this. These things are outside of time. I stayed contemplating her until I had the idea of sharing this beauty with Titi and touched her gently to wake her up. The lady made a gesture of silence by bringing one finger up to her mouth in a silent shh. But already Titi was awake. All I could say to Titi was, "Look, Titi, Santa Claus." It was too late. The lady had disappeared. Titi did not get to see the Lady of Light. She seemed very frightened, as if I had seen a ghost. She tucked me in bed with her and covered both of us inside her sheets and blankets. I could feel Titi's fear while she wrapped herself around my body. I felt uncomfortable when she did that, but I didn't reject her because she seemed terribly frightened, and wrapping herself around my body must have given her comfort. I felt tremendously loved by the Lady of Light, and I fell asleep with a softness in my heart. I remember how happy I was in the morning, running up and down in my grandparents' house and yelling, "I've seen Santa Claus! I've seen Santa Claus!" I later came to understand my whole life had been, since that episode marked my life for the rest of it. And even I embarked in the practice of Zen, trying to understand what had happened to me. Where did she come from? Because really, when one sees something that is beyond beautiful, beyond words to describe it, but not only how it looks, but what the energy that you feel where you are in that place is something that you cannot forget, because I never felt that kind of energy in the world. So one of the things that I understood later is the purifying power of fire. So as a little girl, I was just visualizing fire. And I was screaming and all that. In my imagination, I thought it was hurting, but obviously it was not hurting. I was screaming because I must have been afraid, but I was visualizing fire, non-stop visualizing fire. And that visualization, I feel that purified me so much that I was able to enter into the Sambhogakaya realm. I mean, a girl at 5.5 is usually pure, but it gets very purified through fire. So that happened. And I mentioned the Sambhogakaya. According to the Buddhist teachings, the Buddha has three bodies: the Nirmanakaya, which is the physical emanation of the Buddha; the Dharmakaya, which is the body of the Absolute, and we can all experience these two bodies. And then the Sambhogakaya. The Sambhogakaya is the third body, which is the body of the light. And according to the Buddhist tradition, highly skilled Buddhists or yogins can enter this realm and receive direct teachings from Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So it's something that is known, not something that I could say is that common, but it's well known. So what happened to me, I'm just running up and down my grandparents' house yelling, I've seen Santa Claus, I've seen Santa Claus, so full of joy and love and everything. And then my whole family gathered around me. They were very serious. My mother told me not to talk ever about that again. And everybody was in accord with her. And then my father started mocking me with a song about the Virgin Mary, which then I realized that her name was not Santa Claus, that maybe it was the Virgin Mary. So from all my joy and suddenly I was surrounded by the family, I just really remember thinking, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with them? I knew there was something wrong with them. Then I kind of had two messages at the moment where my family is around. One was that I had to forget about that for now, and that I will understand later when I was old. And I'm here now, old, talking about this. So during the rest of my life, I would find clues here and there that would make me feel that I was getting closer to finding more about the Lady of Light. And one of those first clues was when I joined an art school in Madrid, Spain. And at this school, I found in the chapel of that school an image of the Virgin Mary that just looks so much like the Lady of Light that I have seen. And I love that sculpture. And I used to go and sit in March, Mass, sit in Mass, take the first bench, and sit in front of her, just contemplating her beauty. And that will transport me to my previous experience. I would experience the same love I felt when I first saw her. But I just couldn't believe that this statue was stepping with her feet on the head of a black snake, like with aggression, and then the snake in suffering. And I just look at her beautiful face and her beauty and her love and her energy and feel all that, and then look down, and it's no, this is not possible. These two things don't go together. But I was only 11. So I said, I'm going to forget about that for now, but I'm not going to forget. I won't forget about this. And then something curious happened, that my aunt and my mother took me and all my siblings to visit the grotto of the Virgin of Lourdes in Lourdes, France. And there they were, my mother and my aunt, admiring the beauty of the Virgin of Lourdes, which actually was a solid statue, which that's not it. But anyway, it's okay. They liked it. They were enjoying that. And I just couldn't believe that they would not consider my words at 5.5 years old, that they didn't believe me, that they ignored me, that they shut me up. And then they are in Lourdes admiring the grotto and the apparition of Bernadette. But it was very interesting to know about Bernadette, because she calls the lady that she saw, she calls her the young lady. And my lady was also very young and very beautiful. So I felt we were talking about the same lady. But then when she said that, her lady asked her, that her lady that was the Immaculate Conception, that her lady carry a rosary, that her lady asked her to pray for the sinners, that she carries roses in her feet. I thought maybe they are not the same. My lady only emanated great love. She could be less interested about immaculate or not immaculate. She could care less. She could care less about calling people sinners or not sinners. I mean, it was as is the sky, as the vastness of the skies has taken form. So these discriminations do not exist in the experience that I had. There was no discrimination at all of any kind. So after that, I thought, well, maybe she was not the Virgin Mary after all. But the way Bernadette felt about her lady, it really connected with how I felt about the lady I saw. And she said, so lovely, so lovely. When you have seen her once, you would willingly die to see her again. That beautiful. You know, not only beautiful, but that you feel all the trust and all the love and all the confidence, so you can definitely let go. I would let go on her arms any day, anytime. That would be great. Anyway, another clue was when I was studying archaeology in Spain. Here I found the original religion of the Great Mother and the civilizations that honor her. The leading archaeologists of the 19th and 20th century that studied the excavations of all Europe and Middle East interpreted the archaeological data in accord to their Judeo-Christian beliefs and discarded the religion of the mother as just a fertility cult. However, new archaeological evaluation of the many objects that survived the persecutions shows that the Great Mother was much more than this. She was revered as the creator of the universe, and she also was believed to possess the wisdom of the universe. She was considered to be a prophetess, inventor, and healer, and she impersonated life, death, and regeneration. The Great Mother was venerated for at least 7,000 years in comparison with the 4,000 years of patriarchal domination and the supremacy of the male god. There are at least 3,000 more years of predominance of the female divinity compared to the subsequent religions that worship the male god. It's incredible, huh? We thought it's always been patriarchy. No, it has been a lot, many more years of veneration of a female embodiment of creation. She was revered in the same way that the masculine god was, but in a different way because the goddess was a benevolent mother, where there wasn't guilt or shame of the body. As human beings, under the guidance of the Great Mother, we planted the seeds of the first civilizations. By the year 7000 BCE, we had a sedentary life wave. Instead of nomad or semi-nomad, we learned to cultivate the soil, domesticate animals, make pots, weave cloth. Agriculture was established. We developed technologies for herding and farming. This is 7,000 years ago. Plows and irrigation system. We were able to build houses, temples, and villages, and to share in community life. There was a fire pit in the center of the houses where women gathered to take care of their kids of the community, learn to cook different foods and herbal medicines. We performed rituals. Anne Baring and Jules Cashford write in the myth of the goddess. The mother goddess in the Neolithic age is an image that more obviously than before inspires a perception of the universe as an organic, alive, and sacred whole, in which humanity, the earth, and all life participate as her children. Since the year 3500 BCE, the religion of the mother was the victim of more than 20 centuries of continual persecution for those who were promoting the new religions that worship the male god, the male deities as supreme. According to Yahweh orders, all pagans need to be killed, and pagans was the name given to all the religions that were not in accord with the religion of the Hebrew God. The massacres were part of the continuous campaign to erase the name of the goddess. They wanted to erase even her name, not just all her people and all her cities, but even her name, that we would not remember even her name. The bloody massacres and the demolition of the statues and shrines dedicated to the goddess are recorded in the Bible as obeying the command of Yahweh. Even though the destruction was massive, temples demolished, men, women, and children massively killed, entire villages wiped from the face of the earth, many objects survived the persecutions and continue to speak of the extent and development of the civilizations that honor the mother goddess. Even in modern history, women have been persecuted in mass, including the witch hunts of the 15th to 18th centuries. The murder of women accused as witches escalated to more than 8 million. Could you imagine? 8 million women burned or hung between the 15th and 18th centuries. 8 million of us, 8 million of our ancestors. And these were simply simple country women who learned the lore of the goddess from their mothers or grandmothers. These were the descendants of the Great Mother. The goddess gradually retreated to the depth of the forest or onto the mountain tops, where she remains to this day in folk beliefs and fairy tales. But the cycles never stop turning, and now we find the goddess re-emerging from the forests and mountains, bringing us hope for the future, returning us to our most ancient human roots. I would like to add to that she's also returning from deep within the earth, bringing us a sense of resilience, equanimity, and big love to help us navigate the turbulent times that lay ahead of us. Buddhist scholar Keith Dauman affirms that Buddhism assimilated the religion of the Mother Goddess, downright in his book Sky Dancer. As Buddhism evolved in India, the goddess religions and practices were incorporated. As I write in the Zen Priestess and the Snake, Zen was born from the merging of Chinese Taoism and Indian Buddhism in the 5th century CE. Taoism was very fond of the female principle. The following poem from the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu is very significant regarding the importance and antiquity of the Great Mother in relation with Zen practice, in connection with Zen practice. She says, the Tao is like a well, used but never used up. It is like the eternal void, filled with infinite possibilities. It is hidden but always present. I don't know who gave birth to it. It is older than God. So what is it older than God? What is older than God? The goddess is older than God. And then he's continues saying, the Tao is called the Great Mother. He even gave us the name. The Tao is called the Great Mother, empty yet inexhaustible. It gives birth to infinite worlds. So since Zen was born from the merging of Chinese Taoism and Indian Buddhism, and Taoism is the religion of the Great Mother, so half of Zen came from the mother and half of Zen came from the father. Let's say it that way. And I wonder that she always had been there, and her symbol was the snake. And it's interesting that when the Buddha was having that terrible time with Mara before his enlightenment, his final enlightenment, that the cobra came and protected his head. And that's the symbol of the Great Mother. So I felt like they were connected somehow. And the later teachings of the Buddha on Vajrayana, those came from the religion of the Great Mother as well. Lama Soltima Leone writes, it is in the Mahayana tradition that we first hear about the sacred feminine in the form of Prajnaparamita. Prajnaparamita was associated with wisdom and the epithet mother of all the Buddhas. The first evidence for this is in inscriptions made around 400 AD. Prajnaparamita is the first female Buddha, but actually she's not male or female. She's considered hermaphroditic, or the female before it splits in feminine and masculine. However, she's identified with the feminine because Prajnaparamita is the state that gives birth to enlightenment, is the state that gives birth to enlightenment. And to me, because the Great Mother was considered the creator or the universe, and she embodied the wisdom of the universe. And then I see a resurface of the Great Mother in Buddhism now as Prajnaparamita, the embodiment of emptiness, again, which is the wisdom of the universe. When I was studying with my teacher, Pat Hawk Roshi, a successor of Aiken Roshi, and who was also a Jesuit priest, I had an experience in which I experienced the essence of the Lady of Light. My teacher's rejection of my experience was a very distressful incident. However, I want to say that Pat Hawk, as well as my Aunt Titi, they are both very dear in my heart. And even though we had some difficult times together, it was due to those difficult times that I felt pushed to continue rediscovering and looking through the veils of the sacred feminine. In the Zen Priestesses and the Snake in page 55, I write a little piece about this. Said, in the morning, I happily went to tell my experience to Patriarch Roshi. He had always been so kind to me, but this time he wasn't. My Kone studies with him were almost completed, and I had a promising future as his successor. He wasn't in the least bit happy when I told him that I had become a woman of light and that everything had come from my womb. He looked serious and kind of upset. Then he told me that if I wanted to continue with my Zen career, I had to forget about that experience. This is all he said. He didn't explain at all. I was shocked to hear this. Forget about that experience, I replied. How could I forget about that experience? How could I betray my own heart? This is impossible. I went to my room, packed all of my things, threw them in the back of my Pathfinder, and left this retreat. I had so many tears I could hardly see the road, and I had to drive 9 hours to get back home. I stopped in the first post office I found. I wrote the following poem and sent it to my teacher in an express envelope. From the dimension of blue light, not even 1,000 steel swords can kill me. Free from life and death, my tears make the shining stars, and my laughter the ocean dance. I'm not a Buddha though, but the mother of all things. Once again, I had entered the Sambhogakaya realm, but this time I felt that I myself had become a woman of light, the sacred feminine, the great mother, and from her, from my womb, every creature emanated. I also realized that we, all women, are endowed with the potential to experience this. Yeah, so after that episode, I had so many questions. Why was my teacher so upset? For first time in all the years that we had studied together, there were like four, and I went to retreat every month. So I had a pretty deep Dharma relationship with him, but this was not gonna get through anything. It was like you have to forget about that completely, and that it was like again because I went again full of joy and happiness to express that. It was the same thing, and again the same thing. You have to forget about that. And before I was 5.5, I had to forget about that. But now, at whatever age I was, 40 something, I was not going to forget about that at all, not for a minute. So then, then thinking about what was it that could have triggered him like that. And then I realized as I write this book, all the story of creation, that women come from men, that men created the universe. We were made out of the rib of men. And I understood that it was deep, and he was a Catholic priest, and it was deep in his theology, and that's the way it was. So for me, I had abandoned my teacher. I had abandoned my Zen career. Yeah, that was very painful. I lost hope that I was gonna find another person. I really abandoned it all, but I was not gonna betray the sacred feminine. But then 6 months later, a Zen teacher moved to my same town, and that was Shishin Roshi, and he encouraged me to find out more what had happened. what were my experiences about. Um, I had met, meeting Shishin, I met with other teachers and I just got rejection after rejection. But I didn't get discouraged at all. And then I met Shishin. He was the first person that encouraged me to find out. And then, like a few weeks later, I met with Lama Soltri Malioni. Um, I found first a book that she wrote, Women of Wisdom, and the introduction in that book, I resonated with so many things that she was saying there. And there was an address for her, and I called, and I cannot believe she answered the phone. We had an appointment, and I went to meet her, and she told me that I was having the kin experiences. So this is a very old term um, related to women experience, enlightened experiences of women. And they are different from men experiences. And I just realized that we have not been able to evolve because our experiences have been denied. And you know, I practiced all my years of Zen. I heard, you know, you have to transcend your gender, and I did. I didn't have any problem with that. Transcend your gender, transcend it. I identify with all the male teachers, no problem. I mean, I love them all. I mean, they're fantastic. Hakuin, I mean, I was Hakuin. So I identify with all of them. It was wonderful. But suddenly you have experience of the female, the sacred feminine, a female body, and then you cannot forget about that. Let me see where I am. So let's see how we have 10 minutes. So I'm just gonna get to the last part of the talk. That this is the first time I get to the last part of the talk. I had all those experiences, but then my life, you know, the experiences were like up here, were very transcendental experiences, but my life was down there, and I had to struggle for the two to come together, and it was not easy. And I think it had taken me like maybe 30 years to integrate those experiences with my life. You know, that long. And the first thing that Shishin Roshi became my partner. And one of the first things that we did together was to write the book, The Great Hard Way, because we noticed that although we had had all those transcendental experiences at the human level, we keep bumping in the same places. So we knew that we needed to liberate ourselves on an emotional level, and putting that book together and practicing with us and practicing with the students that volunteer themselves, we all got rid of a lot of baggage, and that was wonderful. And then I found some goddess practices in the book by Tibetan teacher Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche. In his book, Healing with Form, Energy, and Light, something like that. I found some very ancient goddess practices. And the final practice was the space goddess, that she is illustrated as wearing white or light blue robes. She's the space goddess, so that was my same impression. It was like if the sky had come together and make this shape. like that kind of same transparency of the sky and the cloud make this beautiful woman. So that's the space goddess. And then out of the space goddess, all the other goddess come, which are the other elemental goddess. And this goddess have two purposes. They are healing to the body. Each goddess has an organ, and they also have an emotion. For example, the earth goddess. The earth goddess is this color, or golden or brown, and it works with the emotions of arrogance and pride. And the organ is the spleen. And when we do the practice, we feel that there has been some energetic change, and we start having taste of the wisdom of that same goddess. So it's the raw energy of pride and arrogance is taken, and with the visualizations, we transform it into the wisdom, which is the wisdom of equanimity. The goddess of the water, the element is, yes, the water, the color is blue. The organ are the kidneys, and transformed anger and hatred is transformed into mirror-like wisdom. Anger and hatred is transformed into mirror-like wisdom. So mirror-like wisdom is a mind that does not project. It's a very calm mind that doesn't project. That's why it's called mirror-like wisdom, like a mirror, like a lake. So only it's like a mirror. Only you see what is there, not what we are projecting on what is there. And then we have the goddess of fire. She transforms greed and attachment into discerning wisdom. Her organ is the liver. And we have the air goddess. She's green. Her element is the wind. She transformed jealousy and envy into all-accomplishing wisdom. So whenever I feel jealous, I think, oh, that's great. Now I can transform it into all-accomplishing wisdom. That's a great wisdom. It's not that, it's not that, okay, without wisdom, we are going to be able to get whatever we want. No, because it's not based in the ego. It's about your vows. It's about your vows. It's about our vows, to accomplish our vows. And then at the end, I realized that this place that I entered before as a little girl, it was in my heart. It's always been in my heart. I didn't know. I had to go through a big loop of finding clues to come back to my own heart. And here it is, my own heart.
Sean said you have till 11:30.
Yeah, it's almost 11.
Till 11:30, you can take questions.
Yeah.
Say something about the second part of the book.
I just did.
You didn't tell them it was in your book.
Say it again.
You didn't tell them it was in your book.
Oh, okay. I have here. Roshi Shishin is telling me that I haven't told you that all of that about the goddesses is in the book. The second part of the book is guiding, is guided visualizations to connect with the sacred feminine in ourselves. I had worked for these practices for at least 10 years, and I have um, adapted to the mentality of the Western civilization, to our mentality. Um, these practices, although they were found on the 8th century by a Tibetan-born Buddhist tradition, they were much more older than that. I'm just very grateful to them that they found them and they kept them safe for posterity. And yeah, so here they are for people to be able to connect with the sacred feminine themselves if they want. So we have plenty of time for questions and answers.
Thank you, Roshi. And uh, I would suspect, as I do, that most everyone here probably has questions. So uh, please, we're among friends. Relax if you have a question. You don't need to use the electronic hand. I can see you. So if you just want to wave your hand, and then I'll just say your name and you can unmute and ask Roshi Shinko whatever is on your mind or in your heart. Roshi, thank you so much. Barbara, hi.
Hmm?
Barbara, hi.
Oh, wow.
Hi, Roshi. Hi, Jeff. Um, I don't have a question, but I just want to express my incredible gratefulness.
Hmm.
I'm so happy that you wrote this book. I feel such a lot of support coming from your writings and your sharings with me. I also did practice with Lama Tsultrim Leone and love the Wangyal books, of course. But I think it's so precious, really, to hear your own personal experiences, which is such an empowering to go deep with the practice that you offer also. And I just feel a lot of support and energy coming from your sharing, and
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you wrote that as a Zen teacher, because this is different. It's different when we get it only from the Tibetan. It's like separated, and so you brought it together as a Zen Roshi, this practice, which gives also the space for all of us to practice in different ways, and
Mhm.
not only like in this straight
Mhm.
masculine Zen path. So I just I'm very, very happy for your offering. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Anyone else have a question or a comment, or women or men? It's okay. Vicky, hi.
Hi, Roshi, how are you?
Hello.
I just wanted to say thank you. That last thing that you said about coming back to your own heart really resonates with some things that have been coming up for me, of just really listening to yourself and honoring yourself, which is something that's kind of an ongoing thing for me, rather than being critical of myself or always assuming I am at fault for something. Just keep coming back to my center and my truth, and accept that I'm not in charge of other people's issues,
Mhm.
and that I'm okay. And thank you. That was a great affirmation.
You're Vicky from yoga?
Yes.
Oh, hi.
How are you? It's been a while.
Thank you.
Thank
For
you.
being there. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you.
I'll be grateful when I can come back to your center again.
Okay.
Hi, Annie. Yoshin.
Hi.
You'll need to unmute yourself, dear. There you go. Let's see. I'll send you a. There,
Is
there
that,
you go.
I think that should work now.
Now you have
I
it,
guess
yeah.
I'm so stunned by Roshi's talk. I don't know how to operate technology. Um, and thank you so much. And I wanted to say that I read your book, The Great Heart Way, that you wrote with your partner, as Genro, my teacher, recommended it to his students as a major reading for Zen when I was just starting out. And it helped me so much, looking at emotional blockages and how to resolve them. And I like to go back to it and keep studying it. It's not like it ever ends because life is filled with challenges.
Yeah.
And so I'm inspired to buy your book and to read it. And yes,
Thank you.
go on. Thank you.
Thanks, Mission.
Graham.
Graham, yeah.
First of all, Roshi, thank you very much for your talk. I was fascinated by your first illustration on screen because it put me in mind of the practices of core shamanism as taught by Michael Harner, in which you are encouraged to go to the base of a tree underground and find your totem spirit animal, or totem spirit person indeed. And I think it's really exciting that this vision came to you spontaneously and at a young age, if I understand you correctly.
No, the vision was just a few years before I received my empowerment as a Roshi.
Aha, thank you. And the other one is just a humorous anecdote. Your green Tara tanker behind you reminded me of a teaching I once attended by a short, squat, bald-headed Australian male who opened his talk by saying, "Every morning I generate the spirit of a green goddess." And that was absolutely wonderful. So there are males channeling the female energies.
Yeah, I like that very much. Yeah,
Thank you.
that is wonderful.
We have 25 minutes if we'd like to use it. So please, if you have a question or even just something to share, a reaction. Arthur, hi. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Roshi.
Hello.
Wow, I'm really thankful that you were talking about the sky and the earth. I really like those. I feel like that's where I am, and that's where I've always been. And I also wanted to share that your talk really helped, or was really connecting me with my mother. I don't often think a lot about her, but I owe a lot to her. And you know, she also used to talk about certain things, and I guess your talk just helped me reconnect with my mother's her own stories in a different way. And I really appreciate that. It's something I can practice on.
That's great. Vicky.
I'm wondering, do you have any copies of The Great Heart Way at your place for sale?
No,
No.
it's on Amazon.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So cute.
Thank you, Roshi. Very nice to see you.
Very nice to see you too.
I'm so excited to hear you and have this book and to hear things named out loud that I've felt for some time, and that that are completely in alignment with the teachings that I've been experiencing. Of course, you know, but for others, I'm a student of Gyoro Sensei, who is one of Roshi Shinko's successors, as well as Shishin Roshi's successor. And there is so much love and heart in our Sangha. We have people who join the Sangha who comment on that. And someone recently who had practiced with many other Sanghas and said, I just haven't experienced this in other Zen Sanghas. And so I don't know any different. This is the only Sangha I've practiced with. And I shared with that person that what we experience in our Sangha is a direct product of your teachings and the Great Mountain. And so it's interesting to me reflecting upon within Zen and within American Zen, potentially, what's happening as more women teachers are sharing their wisdom and particularly feminine wisdom and naming it. I believe that it's been there all along, as you say. It was there before. It is that which is. It just has not had that voice and been allowed to be expressed in that way. And I'm so excited to be part of a generation where that is opening and healing. I feel that deeply, and I'm curious if in any connection you have with other Zen Sanghas, you know, within this country or otherwise, whether you are seeing that unfolding, you know, beyond our Sanghas as well, because I feel it very much in ours.
I felt very welcome in giving talks in Chicago and at CCLA. I felt very welcome. Yeah. And so I just keep going, you know, to the next. I think we have a long ways to go in order to save the planet. Save the planet, save all the animals from extinction, save the forests, save the oceans. So this might bring us back. This might bring the old feminine wisdom back when we see that all of our creatures are gonna disappear, and the elements of earth, water, fire, and earth are totally unbalanced. That's what I feel. Because, you know, whether we are aware or not, we are connected with those times where we honor those things, where the whole universe was one, but not out there, but in our lives. So when we took life, we had rituals for taking life, and we only took what was necessary. But look where we are now, where patriarchy has been the guiding force, and look where it had taken us. It seems it was all about power and exploitation without heart. Without heart. Anyway, so I just want to keep going. This is what I have to be doing, teaching about this and talking about this, and that's what I will be doing. Nadia.
I would like to express my gratitude, and this book is really putting another coat to it. I had a docuson with you maybe a year ago or a little more about something extremely hurtful that I had heard from a man, and you had this explosive reaction that has been with me every single day. And I get emotional because you have literally given me an open door to what I had felt, just like Sokyo said, that I thought I was strong and I thought I was tough and I thought I was respecting myself. But like you just expressed, the patriarchy was so heavy on me, my education, that I was missing that big part of respect. And those words you said, which just a sentence, has been really resonating, and I have been following that religiously. So this book is just really it's just a reinforcement that I needed, with more details, with more references. So I think you are changing the lives of a lot of us, and I am so, so grateful.
Thank you. Barbara.
Roshi, did you ever thought on doing a bearing witness retreat about the suffering of women through the centuries and the suffering of the earth, that we could bring women and men together and do a real big event on working on our pain and the suffering, and also about the healing and doing some practice together? I think that would be so.
Sounds wonderful. Very
and
wonderful.
He's here, so maybe we have just to to tell him that we really should do that.
That sounds wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Margarita.
Thank you so much, Roshi Shinko, for sharing with us, for me, you know, a very personal journey with you. It was, I'm here, I'm a little emotional right now, so forgive me if my words choke up. I'm here because you're probably one of the first people I've met whose story I can totally relate to, you know, when the family rallied around you and said it was never to be spoken of, you know, that happened to me. So I ordered the book, thankful for a $5 coupon. I can't wait to read it, Roshi. So what I would like to ask you at this time is, what advice do you have for all of us moving forward regarding, you know, just really honoring who we are in the feminine, this divine feminine energy that really is the healing force, I feel, for all of us, you know, in life. You know, in Zazen, we focus on the hara. You know, the hara, that's our center. You know, it's also known as the, you know, the sacral chakra. You know, it's where women, we give birth. It's where we find our heart, our creativity. It's where things are born. So I just wonder if you might kind of give us a little bit of wisdom on how to just kind of hold that always in the forefront.
For me, really what had guided me has always been to trust my emotions. Not the superficial emotions, but to trust my deep emotions. um, to be connected with my heart. And I, after that happened with the Lady of Light, and they told me to shut up and all that, I also, in my family, I could not express feelings either. Feelings were not welcome. But they were my secret refuge. I can have as many feelings as I wanted, and I could listen to them and hear them. And for me, they become like, they are the language of the body. Sometimes feelings can be blocked and then don't flow, but when they are flowing, they really are the life of the body. They are the language of the body, and they connect us with the universal energies. So I find that is the most advanced way of perception is through unblocked feelings. I have a fly that really, really like the talk, trying to land on my head all the time. I always had to trust my heart, and even though at times was very painful, like when happened with Pat Hawk, Roshi, that I really had a deep relationship with him, and I had to sever. But otherwise, I would have felt that I would have sold myself. I would have not stayed with my heart. So, the heart, following the intuition from my heart, it had never let me down. Even going through situations that are very painful at the moment, then things open up in a very unexpected way, like meeting Shishin after that, and meeting Solti Malione, who she still remember me, and she endorsed the book. I only saw her that time when I went to see her with my experiences. And when we were seeing, oh, maybe she will remember, and it's like, no, she's not gonna remember it. She did remember, and she wrote a beautiful endorsement of the book. So you were talking about the Hara, Margarita. Also, I find that with Zazen, it's very important that we ground our heart in the Hara. So the heart is grounded in the Hara. Otherwise, we don't want to become too emotional or feel so much pain that we cannot handle it. So the Hara grounds us. Was that okay? Roland, you have anything for me?
Roland, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Does it work now?
Now it's good.
Okay, so I thank you a lot, Roshi, for your work, and I also read your book, and it was quite thrilling for me. And I only can apologize that the men still are in such a dominant situation towards the women. And that's why I'm so happy that in our lineage, that Bernie and other teachers empowered a lot of women. And it's so important that the women themselves, they fight for their position, for their seats. And it's just a joy to see. It's good for us men too, to have a strong women besides ourselves. It's empowering to us, to the male. And of course, I can see how we damaged and still are damaging the world. And how can we stop that? It's only by giving energy to the female, to that what, and to our female part of ourselves in the male. So it's not, what you are talking about is not so strange for me. It's not far away. I also feel that is a part in myself too. I started my my studies or my career with Sufism, and it's a female way, much more female way than Zen. But Birdie for me always was a Sufi teacher, a teacher with the heart.
Yes.
And I guess the further they go, the Zen masters, I feel also that they open their hearts. But just the rules are so heavy, so straight, and I always wanted to study not with a Zen teacher. But then when I made friend with Bernie, I just realized, oh, that's the Sufi teacher I was always looking for.
That's great.
And he also realized did a lot of female work with Jishu. I don't know if, I guess you also know his way and how he described this transformation. So thank you a lot.
Margarita, do we still have Margarita? One thing came back from your question, and it was that did you mention, or somebody else mentioned about the criticism that we put on ourselves, the feeling of we are never good enough, that we always have to be different from where we are. I've been talking a lot about the sacred feminine that had been suppressing me for so long. So then after I've been doing all these talks, then things are moving in my body. And then I realized that I'm still in patriarchy. And when I recognized it, I felt like I was carrying with me a crap helmet through my whole body that was separating me from what it is. And that helmet is the helmet of patriarchy that is always telling me it's never good enough, you're never gonna make it, all these things, criticism. And then when I realized that, I said, wow, now it's a female universe. And she just accepts us as we are. We don't need to be any different than we are. And I had the vision at that moment of that crab shell that I was carrying on, just breaking in pieces. And finally, I wake up in the morning now and I feel accepted by the universe. And it's a very different feeling than having been rejecting some aspect of ourselves every day or here and there. So that was the part that I remember.
Thank you, Roshi. And we have just a few more minutes, but if I could, there's a chat from my friend Sandy Inkster from Canada that, do you want to read it or should I read it so that everyone can hear it, Roshi?
You can read it.
Sandy Inkster, who lives north of Toronto, if I remember correctly, Sandy. Thank you, Roshi. I'm very grateful to have been here today and for you bringing your personal experiences, learning and teaching to us, especially in book form, to share with others. My internet is not good today, so I can't really speak, so I chatted here. Sometimes I can't hear you, but I've heard most of what you said. As you said, existence at all levels depends on the feminine being held sacred. For some reason this past week, the mind has been noticing that in the English language, feminine names have masculine embedded in them. Fascinating. Woman, man, lady, lad, female, male. And then she says, with gratitude, and she does. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy.
We have a couple more minutes. If somebody has one more, Margarita.
I'm sorry, if there's someone else that might have a question, I'd be happy to step back. But I just wanted to ask you, Roshi Shinko, for me personally, as a female, one of the things that has been one of the hardest things to overcome is the shame. So, I find that the more grounded I've become, I've spent a lot of time in a very patriarchal world, even chasing my spirituality, so to speak. But I found that, one of the things that has always held me back is shame. So I wonder if you can just, on an ending, might kind of give some positive words on just women and shame.
Yeah, even the sacred feminine has been shamed herself. And I've been very shamed. I had to work with shame ever since we developed the Grey Heart Way. I mean, shame has been one of my big energies blocking other energies. The energy of shame. And yeah, and when I wrote the book, it was like, like I had put all this out that caused me so much shame. So I was like, how am I gonna deal with that? But the audience had been so receptive, all of them, since I had been giving this talk, that I had not felt any shame after when I give the talks. But I had to feel it. Before I had to feel it, I had to recognize it, because with feelings, thinking about them, it doesn't work. We have to feel them and also hold a space. So give them the container of presence of Zazen, and then we can feel them and we do not interfere with them, and then they can dissolve and move out from our body. So I had to do a lot of that practice. Yeah, the Lady of Light was so shaming in my heart, since my father mocked it with that song that he sang, that he thought he was being so funny. And for me, I felt shame. And when he sang that song, it was something, y la Virgen va de paso con su esposo hacia Belén. And the Virgin is going on her way to Bethlehem, with her husband on her way to Bethlehem. The way he sang it to me, it was not a praise, it was a mock, it was mockery. So that was the first time I think she got shamed in my heart. And then continue that. I never talked about this before, because there was nobody to talk about this with anybody. I couldn't talk about this with anybody. Nobody will understand, so I always kept it secret in my heart, always secret until now, until the power of Roshi Gyoko, and then what's happening to the planet. Because nobody talks about the sacred feminine, and we have to really, I feel that we really, really need to look to the roots of what happened. What happened is that the sacred feminine was wiped out from the face of the earth, but she's still here.